How you doing? My name is Fintan Murphy from Damson Cloud. Today we're going to talk about digital transformation and how you can use Google's technology to increase collaboration and innovation in your organization.
Welcome to Profile 3 TV, and today we're joined by Fintan Murphy, who's up from Dublin, so thank you very much. And your company is Damson Cloud.
It is, yeah. It's a nice short trip of 2 hours up from Belfast. A lot shorter than it used to be.
Yeah, well, this is right. Welcome to Belfast. We'll have some fun today. But so tell us a little bit about your background, your company, and how you come up with your name.
Yeah, so my own background is IT. I actually set the original business up when I was 18. I was actually still, or 18, 19. I was still in school. And the original business was Damson Technologies. There was no clouds to sell back then. And yeah, so really have worked in the IT industry and for myself for the last 15 years or so. And the Damson Cloud kind of part of the business kind of came around in 2011. We merged with another business in the UK, Catalytic, and kind of became an international business then. But we kept the Damson name because the name is kind of interesting. We used to have a tree house when we were kids, and it was a damson tree. A lot of people don't know what damson trees are.
Actually, I don't.
Yeah, no, we get damsel, we get everything, and so you have to kind of tell the story, which is an excuse as well.
So we'll annoy Brendan to put a picture up on the screen so everyone knows. So watch the video.
Yeah. But no, we have fun with it as well. Sending customers Damson gin and any Damson related products we can find. So
incredible. And then the services you offer is all around cloud.
Yeah, so we used to be a very traditional IT support company, and that was obviously where we started 15 years ago. As I said, there was Web 2.0 was maybe kind of a thing, but we've been selling cloud services now for 10 years. And we've been a Google partner for 10 years, and it was definitely very different back then. Selling cloud, and I think companies understand it more now. They understand the benefits that the cloud can bring. Back then, it was really focused primarily around email, maybe, and calendar. That was kind of the first foray into the cloud that the companies had. Whereas now it's online document collaboration, it's video conferencing, it's so much more than just email and calendar, and that's really our focus and our job is to try and help companies leverage the most from their kind of cloud investment or technology.
Incredible. And for the companies maybe who are watching this and don't actually realise what cloud is and wouldn't know the full gambit that it covers, wouldn't mind explaining it a little bit more?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's one of those things where you can kind of define it in many different ways. But really, in terms of small businesses and in terms of even enterprises, it's just accessing or using software that isn't directly on your desktop computer or your laptop. It's somewhere else in the world. And the thing is that we use cloud technology all the time. If you have a Facebook account, if you have a Gmail account or a Hotmail account, you're using a cloud service. You're using a service that is on a server or computer somewhere else in the world. And so people are often familiar with it, they just don't realize maybe that they are. And it's really about, for us, what are the business cloud solutions or the business tools that organizations can use to really add value to their business and allow them to do what they're doing more effectively and more innovatively, and really collaboration. I mean, collaboration is often the key part of it. People are maybe in a situation where they have a traditional file server, they're sending documents back and forth, people are making edits and then sending a document back to the other person, and suddenly there's now 4 or 5 copies of the document, and so that's, for us, that's really collaborating like it's the 1990s. That's what we say. And so we're trying to bring people into the future and say, well, is there a better way to do this? And there are many different ways that you can collaborate in the cloud. There are tools like Google Docs where you can live edit. There are products like Dropbox where you can have a sort of a shared folder in the cloud, and Google Drive now allows that as well. And so for us, it's about evaluating the particular business process processes and requirements of a company or customer, and seeing what solution fits them best. So that's our expertise. And sometimes we're talking to customers in the early stages where they really have no idea what it is that they need or want. And they're maybe evaluating Microsoft or Google or Dropbox or these other sort of cloud solutions. Or maybe they're further down the road. They've decided, yes, Google is the solution for us. We're looking for a Google partner, and can you help us move our information, our data to the cloud? And that's a lot of that is the initial step. It's that de-risking. Do you know what I mean? Because it is a huge risk for companies to change their workflows, and so that's the initial part that they bring in us to really de-risk that, so that we've done this hundreds of times. We've come across hopefully most at this stage. I won't say all, you can never say all, but most of the challenges that there are in terms of moving to the cloud, or just changing business processes, we've come across them, and so it's that expertise that we're kind of bringing to the table, I suppose.
Very good. So it's really to try and help a business be more efficient, effective in what they're doing, collaboration, as you mentioned, save money probably as well.
Yeah, very often it can be, and again, that can be part of the requirements. What's the sort of impetus for change? What's the reason this particular business or organization is looking to move to the cloud, or maybe they don't even realize that it's the cloud that they're looking at. They're just, the way we're doing things right now isn't working. So we need a better solution. We need a better way to collaborate. And it's often when you're talking to customers, they're telling you the challenges. They're saying, this is the challenge we have. This is the challenge we have. It's our job to say, okay, well, this solution might work, or this solution might work. And here's why we feel with our expertise, this would be a better fit for you. What I always say to customers is, we know the cloud and cloud solutions. You know your business, and it's the combination of those two pieces of information and expertise that we need to bring together. I don't know your business. You need to help me with that. And you maybe don't know the cloud, and I'm here to help you with that. And so that's really the partnership, and it is a partnership, because cloud services, well, it's a different way of buying. Like, customers are used to sort of buying a server or upgrading their systems, and then going, right, that's it. We don't need to worry about that for 5 years. We can we can forget about that and just pay the maintenance. And that's the very traditional way of IT and of doing things. Whereas cloud services is monthly or it's annual. And so I always say it's not transactional like buying a Mars bar, where you're kind of going into a shop and you're never going to see the person again. It's a relationship that you're building. And so you need to ensure that the advice and the expertise that you're providing to the customer is correct and accurate for them. Because if it's not, in a year, they're, when it comes to renewal time, they're going to be going, well, Fintan, why did you tell me that it was going to do X, and it didn't, it only did Y. So it actually, I think for IT companies and for customers, it creates an honesty between that, because it isn't going to be 5 or 10 years down the road when they're upgrading. It's going to be next year. So you've got to make sure that the solution does what the salesperson says it does.
Yes, so for sure. And it's very interesting. You were talking about partnerships, and you see your clients as partners, because similar to us, clients will come in and say they want SEO or something, but actually they don't. Actually, you have to peel it back and find out what the problem is. Because actually, more often than not, they don't actually want SEO. They want something else. But at the end of the day, they need customers or people visiting their website, and that's what it's all about. So.
And it is often trying to find what the real requirements are. I mean, it's trying to dig into it and say, well, what is it you actually need or want, sort of behind, maybe, as you say, the initial, this is what I think I want, or this is what, and I mean, that's why we bring in experts. Do you know what I mean? You go looking for a mortgage personally, or you go looking for a loan from the bank, or some particular service that you don't know about. You don't necessarily have all that information. You need that expert to say, this is actually what you need.
That's so true. Yeah. So you specialize in Google, and Google has an incredible suite of software. So you could tell us a little bit about what's what's in that suite, what is the Google ecosystem, and what's maybe the popular ones that people use more often than others?
I think that's an interesting question. Yeah, what are the popular ones? I think the product is known as G Suite. People might know it as Google Apps, which was the previous name for it. It was rebranded there a couple of years ago. There are only 3 editions of it: G Suite Basic, G Suite Business, and G Suite Enterprise, which is good because it's simpler as well. Often within the Microsoft world, there are almost too many different SKUs and different versions, and that can be confusing. But within the Office 365, Microsoft have actually simplified that now, so that is good. It is easier to compare the two, because that's often what customers want to do. And when they're looking at Google, they will almost always be looking at Microsoft and vice versa, because they're the two main businesses within those solutions. The obvious one is mail and calendar. So you can have your business domain on Gmail, on Google Calendar. That's the biggest misconception that we have, particularly with smaller companies, where they think they're going to have to move to an @gmail.com, which is understandable, but that is definitely the the biggest misconception. It is on your business domain, and it is a business product that you're paying for. There isn't any ads or anything like that in it. So they're the kind of questions that we often get asked initially. The mail and calendar, I kind of feel is the easy one. Do you know what I mean? If you like how Gmail looks and works, and you kind of speak to an organization like ourselves about the benefits, and that ticks the boxes for you, then go for it. But it's really, for me, it's about what we do after that. Like the de-risking, sort of migrating companies over. Our sort of 3 pillars are that sort of migrate, secure, and then the digital transformation piece, and transform is our kind of third one. And so for me, that's really where I want to get to, and I know my tech team are always like, we have to do the migration, we have to do the security bit. I'm like, yes, we do, and that's super important. But in one sense, that's the more traditional stuff, the less exciting stuff, and it does have to be done. It has to be done well. You can have and you will be able to set up a much more secure environment in the cloud than people will have in traditional in-house setups. That's often a misconception, that the cloud is less secure. It is more secure, and it's about, for us to customers, it's about proving that, and we do that in our initial discussions. And then really the transformation bit, as I said, that's where I want to get to, and that's where we look at stuff like collaboration and how teams are working together. And that really focusing on that new way of work, as I said, not sort of collaborating like it's 1995, trying to move towards how we often do things as, in our personal lives. Do you know what I mean? As consumers, we're used to our iPhones just updating. We're used to the software improving over time, and so we're used to logging into Gmail or logging into Facebook, and there's a new update and it can do something that it couldn't do before. Whereas with traditional business software, it's very often I bought this and it's the same for 5 years or 10 years, and my Outlook and my Microsoft Word or whatever haven't changed, and there's no additional features. And it's kind of strange, because it used to be that businesses, 20 years ago, businesses used to have the height of technology, whereas it's almost swapped around now, where consumers are the most up to date and have the most up to date technology, because we're the testers now, and it's kind of been tested out on us. And then when it works, then the businesses sort of get it, maybe a year or so later. So it's interesting how things have changed in the technology sector over the last few decades.
Incredible. I can see your value add piece then, as you say, the third part of your process, which is making businesses digital, or digital transformation, and helping them. I can imagine efficiencies and everything, the collaboration, that's where it really kicks into play.
Yeah, and that is really where the benefit for organizations is. Like the mail and calendar is a tick box in a sense. Like, that's great. That's where maybe you save some money. You're not having to look after an in-house server to manage your mail anymore, and that's great. But then how do we get to a point where you're actually changing the way you work, where your team and your staff are like, wow, this is incredible. I can get work done on my phone, on the train. I can access my information from anywhere while still allowing it to be secure. And we do, in more recent years, we've started doing digital transformation labs, which is a concept from Google around it's sort of an innovation workshop which is used more widely, but Google have sort of taken their sort of what's the word their sort of tilt on it, and they've trained Google partners on how to do these digital transformation labs. And they're quite interesting. We kind of take people through a couple of different steps. The first is inspire, where firstly you take a particular group of people. So generally you're looking for a team of people within a particular department. So maybe you take everyone in the HR department or everyone in the finance department. If it's a small business, you might do a cross-sectional, across different departments. But if you can focus on an individual department or maybe one or two departments that overlap a lot, you'll find business processes that sort of one follows into the other. So IT and IT support and finance, there's maybe a couple of different things that are the processes are overlapping. So if you can get those people in a room to look at those business processes and map them out, which is really what the transformation labs are about. It's a business process improvement workshop. And the inspire bit is about just showing that sort of 10 or 15 or 20 people in your workshop how other companies have done it. So we took this other team and this is what they did, and here's how they changed this particular business process and how it improved their number of hours they spend doing X or Y, or how fast they can do it now. And then you go into the discovery bit, and the discovery bit is quite long. That's where they actually brainstorm out their business processes. And what's quite interesting is people think when they're kind of walking in the door that maybe this is a training session, or sometimes it can be some misconceptions about what it is they're going to be doing. Now you do try to explain up front, but not everybody reads the emails, so that can be quite interesting, because people sometimes think they're just going to be sitting there with their laptops and suddenly they're up on their feet, they're filling in post-it notes, they're brainstorming out the actual processes, and it's maybe the first time that they've been allowed to do this. It's maybe the first time in their career or in a long time that they've looked at these processes that maybe have been in place for 5, 10, 15 years when technology was completely different, and we were all still sending faxes to each other, so sometimes you wouldn't believe some of the processes that we come across, some still including things like ancient technology like faxes. And so once people map it out, they can kind of see it visually and go, well, hang a second, firstly, irrelevant of technology, do we need 15 processes in this, 15 steps in this process that we've never looked at before? And so the third part then is around prototyping, and we break people into teams, so you kind of get a little bit of competition going as well. And we would have one technical person in each team who's from our team, so a sort of a Google expert, and they help them to build the prototypes out. So the prototyping is around, how do we map this business process that you've just mapped out? How do we sort of transfer that now to the Google world or the Google environment? And what does that look like? And what steps can we now remove? Because suddenly you're not emailing a document around, it's a live Google Doc that everyone can access in a central location. So how does that change the process that you're looking at? Or a Google form. Google Forms are a really undervalued piece of you were asking me what was kind of one of the favorite ones. Google Forms. If you've never used Google Forms, go right now and look up Google Forms. All you need is a Gmail account to sort of test them out. And it basically, if you've ever used SurveyMonkey or any of those online forms, you can collect data and it puts it into a Google spreadsheet. And so it's a really amazing way of collecting information in a business, either from customers, getting feedback from customers, or within a business, just organizing something as simple as a Christmas party. So yeah, it's getting people to utilize those tools, and very often, as I say, customers enter it with sort of mail and calendar, but then they don't dive into the Google Drive and the Docs and the Google Forms and the Google Sites where you can build intranet solutions and everything. That gets forgotten about. And so the digital transformation labs are around kick-starting the transformation journey and sort of saying, okay, you've gone this far, how do we get you from A to B? How do we now get your organization to a point where there is true digital transformation and people really feel like this is an invaluable tool that I cannot live without.
Incredible. I can imagine, again, so actually forms is something so we're Google.
Yeah,
We
yeah,
use
you
G
use
Suite.
G Suite yourself.
Never use Forms. So
Have you not?
Never use Forms. So
Right, we're training session to do 15 minutes before I leave.
so every one of these interviews I learn something new. So actually, yeah, Forms.
Google
are gonna be
Forms, yeah,
brilliant.
it's astounding. I'm always, maybe I shouldn't be. Do you know what I mean? It's very hidden away. Do you know what I mean? But like I think a Google Doc, people have used maybe a Google spreadsheet they have, but Forms, it's just so powerful, and you can now automate stuff in Forms. So Google, very open with their APIs and stuff, allow developers to kind of create add-ins and things like that. And there's like form approval processes you can make. Again, you look at a simple process like a PO approval, and sometimes in if we have a finance team, that will very often be one that will pop up, and sometimes they can be crazy. The amount of emails have to go back and forth, and different people have to be involved in the approval. Like, because that's the requirement of the business, you suddenly turn that into a Google form. One person fills it out, it sends an email to someone, they click a button and it hits approve, and then it's automatically, the system then sends an email to the next person in the queue who needs to approve it, based on who that person's manager is, and all this sort of criteria. So you can create automations quite quickly with no like development skills or anything.
And look, we're a perfect example then of someone that's paying for a service and enjoying the service, but are actually probably only using 20%.
I know.
We're missing the step 3.
But I mean, that's where the transformation labs come in. That's why Google started doing them, and we started getting involved. And it's an area we've sort of specialized in. Other Google partners might specialize in various other areas, but the sort of training, the digital transformation, that's really our sort of key area. Do you know what I mean? To the extent that many other Google partners may use our skills and hire us, third party, to work for some of their customers. And I do like that with the Google ecosystem. There's a lot of sort of crossover. So people will often help each other out and resell each other's services and products and things like that. It's quite close-knit community, which for me, coming from a traditional IT background originally, it's very different. Do you know what I mean? It can be a little bit more cutthroat in some of the other
niches.
Products, yeah. We shall remain nameless.
Very good. And so you're all about innovation and encouraging collaboration and getting companies to be digital, even digital companies to be digital.
Yeah,
so how do you do that? Is it through training and advice and highlighting what works?
Yeah, I think it's it's a combination of things. And that's part of the digital transformation sort of journey piece that we do with customers now. And the digital transformation labs, yes, are a key part of that, and they're definitely very important. And they would bring in this sort of methodology. But I've done some talks on it recently on the digital transformation piece, and we would go through a sort of collaboration map and things like that. The key areas in terms of digital transformation, and this is at a very high level, is people, process, and technology. And it's the combination of those three that you need. So it's interesting when you see sort of digital transformation projects or new technology projects that fail. It's when someone focuses, or an organization focuses, on just one of those. So they just focus on the processes, or they just focus on the technology. And you'll often get the technology bit where you'll have maybe a very IT focused IT team or company, and they'll say, we'll swap out this app for that app, and we've digitally transformed. That's it, we're done. Whereas they haven't done the training, they haven't done the change management. It's interesting for us that even as part of a Google deployment, Google have different areas, so the kind of technical end, the project management end, and the change management part, and then the kind of a support ramp up. And those three areas, the change management, technical, and project management, used to be, the technical and project management used to be the biggest parts. So they had this lovely little pie chart, and the technical used to be huge. And now change management is almost 40%. It is the most important thing, because you can get the technology right, you can get the project management right, but if you don't bring the people in your business along on that journey, the project's going to fail. If they don't use the tool, then it's irrelevant what technology you put in place. You can buy, G Suite, you can buy VR headsets, you can buy iPads for people, but if they don't use them, then people are still going back and sending faxes. It doesn't matter, and it's literally that stark. Do you know what I mean? I had an interesting example of this from a teacher actually, who I know personally. I didn't work on this project, but he brought in G Suite and Google Sites into the school, and he made a lovely little intranet for the staff that had all of the information that they would kind of require. And he, after a couple of weeks, he realized nobody was logging in and using it, and he couldn't understand. He's very technical, and so he was using it, maybe a couple of other people, and he was like, what's going on? And all of the information was in the staff room on the staff notice board, so there was no reason for them to stop doing what they'd been doing for 5-10 years, whatever. And so he took the notice board down. And so that forced the change. Everybody now had to log on to the new system. So we're creatures of habit. We'll continue to do it in the old way. I think they say it's 7 times or something. You have to do something new before you'll make it a habit. I read that somewhere. Not sure if that's true, but I read that somewhere at least 7 times. And I think when it comes to digital transformation, it's similar. You can bring in G Suite and a new technology like that, and that's brilliant. That the tool is the enabler now. It can allow collaboration. It has, you have to pick the right tool that can allow people to collaborate. And what's interesting is, when you see businesses where they don't put in place the right tools, you get a lot of what's called shadow IT. I don't know if you've ever heard that term. It's where people move outside of the traditional sort of IT areas. And what happens is they get frustrated with the technology that's in place, and they go and set up a personal Dropbox account or personal Gmail account. And so that's people actually going ahead of the business, and so they want to be able to collaborate, but the tools that the business have given them are frustrating them, and they're unable to do that. And so that we see that quite a bit, and that's where we talk to IT teams who say, okay, it's obvious that some of your staff are going around this problem by setting up the personal stuff. What G Suite does is gives organizations that collaborative, innovative approach, while allowing IT teams the security that they require, or the business the security that they require. But coming back to kind of those 3 keystones, if you put in the technology and you don't do the training and change management, then the people aren't coming along, and then the transformation labs are the process bit. So you sort of have relative success by doing the people and the technology, and making sure they get training and supporting and stuff like that. But then the sort of final one that will really push your business to the next level is looking at the actual business processes and saying, okay, we've given people the new technology, we've given them the training, but they're still going back and doing this particular process the old way because no one said that we should change it. So the transformation labs are taking people out of their day and saying, we're going to look at these now. And we would often do, like, you wouldn't just do one, we'd often do half a dozen transformation labs, and it would be part of a larger digital transformation project where we would look at the different areas under like a collaboration map or a digital transformation map, and the different areas that will sort of enable transformation in a business or hamper transformation. So even things like the executive team in a business could be behind digital transformation, or they might not. Do you have budget for digital transformation? Do you have the technology? That was one that we mentioned. Have the business processes been looked at? So all of these things, and there's a dozen or so that we look at, and then we try to grade them. So just a simple traffic light system is, does this area need to be looked at, or is this green? You've got the right tools, people are trained and supported, but the executive team, they're not behind it, and so then that's an area you need to work on, because what you don't want to do, and certainly what we don't want to do, is start down a path to failure where we know, and we've done enough of these now, that we know at the beginning, well, hang on a second, if we look at these different areas, we already know at the beginning, okay, this isn't going to work, because with change management, for example, the biggest area is stakeholders. So if you don't have an executive stakeholder, we won't do a project. Like, we'll refuse to do it if a company doesn't do the change management piece and that they don't have an executive sponsor, because there's just no point. Yes. We know from the outset that this isn't going to work. And that can be, a shock to people where you're kind of saying, no, actually, we're not going to go ahead with this, and they're like, but we want to, and we're going to pay you for it, and we're like, well, it's going to fail because of these things, and if you're bringing us in as the experts and we're giving this advice, and you're already not taking it, then and sometimes that can reset things. Sometimes you part ways, and that's fine as well. I think we're at a point as a business where we can kind of pick the projects that we want to do, which is great because we're self-sufficient as an organization, which is fantastic. Obviously, in the early days, you run your own business. You take whatever's going, but I think every business eventually reaches that point where you can maybe be a bit more particular about your projects. Which is good.
Incredible. So just to talk about who would be your ideal customer? And how can anyone watching this video reach out and find you?
Yeah, that's kind of an interesting, our ideal customer. We would generally work with companies who would have at least 50, kind of minimum of 50 to 100 employees, and up to about 5,000 employees is generally where we top out. Google has their different sets of partners that work with different sizes. And the reason we go for the minimum is often with the smaller businesses. And there are Google partners, by the way, who focus on small businesses less than 50. And I think that's really what it's about, that we understand that we can add value to these particular companies of this size, and we don't add as much value to the smaller ones. So I think it's about focus as well for us. At about sort of 50 employees, we find that companies tend to have an IT manager. They tend to be taking IT a little bit more seriously. It's seen as an investment, maybe rather than a cost or an expense. And so, like I said, it just means that we're able to help them along that digital transformation journey more easily. And not to say that smaller businesses can't. They often aren't leveraging technology enough or the sort of digital transformation enough, and they can definitely benefit from it, but it's just not our area of focus.
Incredible, excellent. And if anyone wants to reach out and connect or find out more about what you do, what's the best way for them to do that?
Probably our website, damsoncloud.com. That's DAMSONCLOUD.com. We get, like I said, we get lots of misspellings, but maybe we can have it come up along there.
And for sure it'll be in underneath the video and in the article as well. For sure.
Yeah. No, I mean, our website is probably the best place, and our YouTube channel. As we were discussing previously, we try to do weekly videos on various different areas, but primarily digital transformation, G Suite. Sometimes we'll do like hints and tips, tips and tricks type thing on G Suite, and then we'll also do interviews with sort of maybe some interesting experts in our sort of area or field. So a lot around the technology, cloud, digital transformation sort of area. So if people are interested in that, you may find our YouTube channel of interest. So.
Amazing. Excellent. I'll be checking out as well. So thank you very much. So thank you for your time today. That was brilliant. And thank you for watching. So please do check out the links below if you're interested in digital transformation or anything around the cloud. Check out the links below this video and in the article. And visit the site, check out the YouTube channel and be educated like I'm going to be. And that's us for today. It's Kieran from Profile 3. Thank you for watching. We're broadcasting from the Innovation Factory here in Belfast, and we'll see you in tomorrow's video. Thank you.